Thank you. Thank you very much for our possibility to speak to such an important audience. My conversation, my speech today is about culture. Usually we start any conversation with what we have today. Even when we meet other people in the street, we ask, how are you now? And as we speak about culture today, I'm not even speaking about what we have today as the heritage of the Soviet or post-Soviet times, as our memories. But I want to get back to the words of Mayor Klitschko. He said, we're looking, we're building, we're modeling the architecture of revival. And you know, it is extremely important that in this architecture, we should have culture. Because if we have no culture, we would have a huge risk to build barracks. In order to build a flourishing and beautiful cultural Ukraine, we need to ask ourselves not what we have today, what we have to fight today, but what to build, how to build a new and interesting resource. To do that, primarily we have to give away from the understanding of culture as a certain limitation, as something that is far away, which is not a part of our life. Because if we look at culture, which is not a part of our life, and we are not this culture, we would get more bucha. And that's why we have to look at the culture as at our resource, as what we have to do every day. And with this practice, we become richer. Now we have a unique moment when the line between culture and economy is disappearing. It has disappeared a long time ago, but now we have to this disappearance to turn into our resource. I'm not going to talk about the macro level, the strategic level of the state, but let's focus on two small examples that can be related to any small community in our Ukrainian cities and in their villages. The first example is about such a phenomenon as Magdeburg cities of Ukraine, or the cities of Magdeburg, right? We know that today we have more than 20 cities and towns that during 500 years were part of the Magdeburg law family, a prototype of the European Union, if you want. And in fact, when we have the figure of 200 towns and 500 years, then we speak about history. What history is? That's museums, festivals, competitions. These are actions. And there we would have trade, and that can be arts and creative arts. There we would see the cuisine. Okay, there is no wine there, but you know, you take the Eneida by Mr. Kotlarevsky when he looked at the Ukrainian cuisine, and let's take the road Kotlarevsky took thanks to cuisine. Let's not talk about markets. Let's not talk about all the things that we can produce, you know, to create huge resources. We have the following example of our newest history. This is the Mariupol centers that we now have in many towns of Ukraine. This is a very important issue when we would not forget, and we are not afraid of telling ourselves about this huge challenge, about this huge pain, but about the huge strength we have. Such Mariupol centers, the small communities can have them. They can turn them with the former Mariupol residents to turn them not only into the points of support for Mariupol residents, but these can be visual centers. Thanks to IT, we can visualize the city, and we can provide, you know, sightseeing tours of Mariupol visually. This can be info hubs or culture centers. In other words, this Mariupol centers could become a point of revival, of development of our national identity, of the winners. This is extremely important, not only to look in the past, but to look in the future as well. Not only to use what we used to have, but on every occasion to turn every pain and every problem into resources. Usually when we talk about culture and when we look at the culture on the micro level, when we look at it as an economic unity, we understand that usually small businesses are a driver here. And these small people who work every day between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. every day, they work to create some good things. They can create new jobs. And in the next to last slide, we can see what culture is in Europe, what the size of the culture market is, how many jobs there are. We can look at that. Culture can be not only an economic factor, but what can bring us all together around creating the cultural heritage of Ukraine after the war. It's very important to remember that. And all those Marshall plans that are on the desks today on the table, usually they bypass culture. And I have huge hopes that our forum would prioritize culture on the micro level and the macro level. However, on the micro level, where the foundation emerges for a national strategic culture in the world. Thank you for attention and glory to Ukraine.